Hi, Lisa. Thank you for coming on my podcast today.
Well, hi, Jill. Thanks for inviting me.
So happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here too.
People love hearing from organizers. We've had a couple on in the past, and just like my industry, everybody has a little bit different approach. So I like to have more than one come on, and I really like your approach a lot. So I'm really happy you're here. I think it'll be valuable information for the audience too, which is what the podcast always tries to do. So I think that's great. So let's start with just you telling the audience just a little bit about yourself for some background.
Yes. So I'm a former teacher that decided in 2017, when all of the other organizers started coming on the scene, I'm like, I can do that. And so I threw it out there on social media, gave away 4 free jobs. And what is it? 7 years later, here I am. And I absolutely love it. Never looked back. It's the most fulfilling job I've had in all of my career.
Yeah, and one quick thing I want to mention, which I think is a nice part of your background, is you came from a family of, was it like 7 siblings or something?
I am the oldest of 7. Yes, there's 5 girls and 2 boys. So I come by it naturally. My family, my parents gave me a lot of responsibility growing up as the oldest of 7. And so they taught us early on that work before play. And so a lot was expected of us. And once we got that work done, we were free to do whatever we wanted. And I was a very social girl. And so I made systems even as a little girl that helped me get those things done so that I could have the freedom. And that's what I bring to my job even today.
See, it's like in you. And it's funny for me with interior design too. It was in me because I grew up in an antique business with my mom. And also just she had just a natural flair for creativity and moving furniture around. And sometimes it's not till you get older that you realize kind of like where your true talents lie. And so I just went and like polished all that up with some schooling and became a designer. But really, it's innate for me. And I think this is innate for you, which was kind of my point. It's really just in you. From the get-go, right? It's
It
just,
is.
and we don't
Yeah.
realize it. You're just
No.
kind of living it and you're thinking whatever. But I think that's what makes, you and a lot of the guests that I come on, have come on so special because it really is a true talent that we have and that you have.
I do. I believe that too. And I think we've all been given a gift. And when we use our gifts, it brings us joy and it brings the people that we use our gifts on joy. And so I realized as an adult and sitting at my own home that I did have a gift for that because people would comment on it. They would open up my refrigerator and they'd be like, this is cool. And then I would have my classroom set up. And then all of a sudden, all the other teachers were asking me to come and help them organize their classroom. I had parents commenting on it. And so it just kind of fulfilled that desire in me to want to help others when everybody else around me was asking for help. So it was a natural transition to starting my own business where I go into people's homes. It was just a really easy decision to make.
Same with me. Yeah. And when you and I first spoke, I love that you mentioned that. You really talk about like, we are given these gifts and you really need to tune into them because we can help people with them. And you have a great
Absolutely.
message with that. So
Yeah.
let's talk about, moving because as you know, my audience deals a lot with moving from city to suburbs. And there's just a lot of moving going on around nationally. Since, before COVID, obviously COVID really pushed that over the edge and then it's still happening. People are realizing they can maybe live in different places.
Yeah.
Maybe they want vacation homes, whatever it is. So let's kind of start there because I really feel like, boy, what a great time to purge. And in the case of someone going from city to suburbs, they're going to go from a smaller place to a much larger. So they may think, oh, I don't have to purge too much because I've got so much room. But let's chat about why purging is important and looking at not just taking everything because you have room. There's other
Right.
reasons, right?
Exactly. And so as a professional organizer, say if you hired me to come into your pantry, the first step we do is we're going to take everything out of your pantry and we're going to sort it. So it's the same principle when you're moving. You're literally touching everything, especially if you are packing yourself up. You are literally touching every single thing in your home. And whatever room you're in, when you go through each item and pull it out and physically look at it or physically touch it, those are the best times to make those decisions of when was the last time I used this item? Is it broken?
Yeah.
and I didn't get it fixed, because my motto is someday never comes. Oh, someday I'm going to get it fixed. Someday I'm going to wear those pants. Someday I'm going to do this. Really and truly, if we sit down and think about those times and those things in our life, someday usually doesn't come. And what that does is just creates clutter and baggage, mental baggage in our closets and our homes that we really need to deal with. And so
Yeah.
moving is the absolute best time. So when I go to clients' homes and we help people here in the Dallas area pack up and move, we are doing the same thing with them. We'll have a team come in. We're pulling everything out. The client is with us on that portion of the job, because we not only just pull it out, we categorize it. So I can set on your kitchen counter, why do we have 5, mechanical hand can openers? Well, because one was here, one was there. I didn't realize I had 5. And so that's kind of the process. And same, doesn't matter what space you're moving from, you still have stuff that you probably haven't used or haven't needed and maybe won't need in the new home.
Exactly. It's just extra stuff. It's funny, when I need to purge an area of my home, and I've been in my home 22 years, and I'm not planning on moving. But for many, many years, if I go to organize a closet, an area, whatever, and I'm trying to figure out what to give away, you're trying to figure out or what to purge, what to get out, I'll say to myself, if I were moving tomorrow, do I need to take this with me? And that really helps me narrow down, like, no, I don't need this in my next house. So why do I need it in this house? And it helps me do that purge, whether it's going to be garbage, giveaway, sell, whatever.
Exactly.
So moving is a really good, I think, motivator. And even if you have space for stuff, it doesn't mean you take that stuff with you, because if the stuff isn't useful or bringing you joy or whatever, why bring it? So I'm with you on that.
Yes. And sometimes when you're moving from a smaller space,
Yeah.
like you talk about, your listeners are moving from the city out to the suburbs. A lot of times those city items, whether it's a desk or a front entry bench or the closet's basket that you have, those aren't necessarily going to transfer into the new home in the proper dimensions that you need. So those are it's also a good time to edit those things down, because hopefully you've gone to the new home, measured, and you know exactly what thing is going to go in what room. And then you have an idea of how it's going to be set up. And it's so much easier to deal with it on the move out end, because there's, like you said, you can give it away, put it, in the neighborhood giveaway section or Facebook Marketplace, and then have it all gone. And then when you get to the new house, it's a completely blank space, and you have the free of clutter. Like you have some room in your brain to think about how you want it. And I always say, I'd rather have nothing in my house than things that I don't love and use.
Yeah, I was going to say too, I really feel like the purging when you're moving, or even the pre-move, taking some time pre-move, it sets you up for success in organizing the new house. Because if you get to the new house, I mean, you're going to eventually have to purge it. Why spend the money to pack it up and move it with you? Get rid of it. And I believe it's a setup for success.
Absolutely. Same here.
Lays the foundation.
Yes, it does.
So now let's talk about, once you've moved, you've got the home and you're getting settled, it is easy to fall into that trap of accumulating a lot of stuff, because you feel like you have so much extra space. It's like the bookshelf example. Like, you've got an empty bookshelf, then you're just going to fill it or whatever. But you described when we spoke, I believe, how empty space is actually important. Having negative space is necessary to kind of maintain an organized home.
Absolutely. And it also gives you the space to decide what you want to bring into the home. Blank space is a place for your eyes to rest. And I always go back to my classrooms, because it's just one of the perfect examples for me. If you taken your kiddos to school and you walk into a classroom that is organized, that doesn't have a ton of clutter on the wall, that has things that are matching and that fit the space, versus walking into that classroom where the teacher has every single space on the wall covered with stuff. They have, the desks are covered with things. There's things hanging from the ceiling. And I just remember those little kiddos in my brain was overwhelmed. So I can
Yeah.
imagine how those little kids were. So the same thing applies to your home. When you walk into a space and you have stuff that you don't love, things
Mhm.
that you haven't used, don't love, it's gonna just end up sitting there because it's there and you're thinking, well, I can use it somewhere. Well, and it doesn't necessarily fit the space. And so
Mhm.
I say I would rather have blank space and start fresh than have too much clutter. And just because, like you said, you have a bookshelf that's empty, one shelf, I say take that shelf off and put something taller to kind of make it feel better for your eyes. Just because it's
Mhm.
there doesn't mean you necessarily have to fill it up.
Yeah, or the bookcase doesn't have to be full. It's funny when I
Mhm.
style bookcases for people, like in their family rooms and things, less is always more. So if I have like a sculptural piece of pottery and then a small object to the right of it, yeah, is there more room in the shelf?
Yes.
But does it sort of fill the space and look beautiful and airy with just the two pieces or even three? Yes,
Right.
even though the shelf might hold eight. So
Right.
and we use that a lot in design. Negative space in a room when you're walking. It's funny, people want to fill rooms like every corner with, well, that corner's empty, I have to put a plant. No, it's actually okay to have some negative space in your decor as well. So same thing applies, but I think you're right too. Like it just, you need that negative space, which kind of gets me into the next thing, because I've really found that things affect our brain.
Yes.
And they can positively, but they clutter. And like I realize, like when my parents had to downsize, all the things they had almost became burdensome
Yes.
because it was too much, right? And it can be a burden. And like you said, like if your office space, because I do creative stuff, sometimes I'll be working on a bunch of projects. So there's a little bit of a blow up in my office. And
Yes.
sometimes before I start the next thing, I need to just clean it up, put everything away, start fresh. And my brain just works differently once I've done that. So let's
Same.
talk about emotions like overwhelm, productivity, and how
Okay.
purging and organizing addresses that emotional piece.
It does. So you were talking about moving and bringing things into the home. And so when you walk into a space and there's too many things in there, and
Yeah.
like you said, there's too many projects going, if you walk into the house and the kitchen table is full of whatever, kids' homework, dinner from last night, breakfast dishes from this morning,
Yeah.
it does not promote productivity. It does not promote a sense of calm. And so I like to set up systems for clients that they can have a system that it gets put away. There's a spot for everything to go. There's
Yep.
a place for everything to live. And like you and I, we both have working offices, and my office desk is a little cluttery, but it's an organized clutter. I have a stack of papers that are for a client. I have a notebook for the class I'm getting ready to teach. I
Mhm.
have my file box. And so there's a purpose and a reason. So
Mhm.
what we like to do is set up systems that even if your space does get cluttery, you can put everything away within 10 minutes. And so from 0 to 10 minutes, you can go back to reset, get
Yep.
it all put back together. And like you said, then it resets your brain as well. So then you have the freedom to start with a fresh thought or start with a fresh day. And
Yeah.
I teach this too, that every single day is a fresh start. So when you want to be productive, getting organized, making things aesthetically pleasing like you do in your spaces. And so do we. When we organize, we match the aesthetics of the home. We want like the pantry to be a continuation of the kitchen decor so that
Mhm.
it does feel like a room, so that it does make it a difference where you have a spot for everything to go rather than just opening the door and shoving it, because you want it to stay nice and you want it to stay aesthetically pleasing. And so those are systems, same with design, that we can set up for clients.
Well, yeah, and once those systems are installed, because I've had them done from a local organizer, it does make it easier for you to sort of what I call continually purge, but you're not even realizing you're continually purging.
Mhm.
Because what happens is you have these set places, you have only a certain amount of space in every home, no matter how big the home is. So if you pull open a drawer and it's starting to look whatever, you're like, yeah, I can get rid of that, rid of that. And so you can really maintain and keep the space organized. But
Yes.
yeah, the second piece that I was trying to get into is that I do feel like there's a very emotional component to accumulating things, clutter, And then the flip side of that is being organized and what it does to our brains.
Yeah.
I
I
believe,
have
yeah.
Sorry, I have clients that will say once it's all decluttered that because we've set them up for systems, they can keep it up because we
Yeah.
have boundaries. We have a basket this is the boundary that we have created for you to keep all of your pasta in. If
Yep.
this pasta basket is full, then you do not have to put it on your grocery
Grocery
list
list.
because
Yeah.
you're completely filled up. And so
Yep.
that's the beauty of getting organized, is because you do have a boundary. And just like behind me, I have blank space. Just because that's there doesn't mean I need to fill it up, because I have a basket. That is my boundary for all of my personal keepsake cards. And so I have a spot to put everything.
Yeah.
And I like having that. So when you go in, you're not just buying things for the pantry or buying things for your home without a thought process. And so by getting the system set up, it sets you up for success, because this is exactly the amount of space I have for this item.
Boundary is such a good word. And I learned that too. So when my pantry got set up and stuff, she said to me, this is actually going to help you at the supermarket, because like
Mm-hmm.
you're going to know visually when your pasta bin is,
Mm-hmm.
full, and you're going
Mm-hmm.
to know you don't need to buy extra pasta, because what was explained to me, and what you probably do too, is
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff we threw out. She goes, now I want you to see these, 4 big garbage bags. That all represents money, your money.
Yes.
And no
And
matter whether it's your closet, your pantry, whatever, it's all money. And if you have a pantry where, like, because it was so disorganized, you couldn't tell which food was expired, or we double and triple buy because, like, we think we don't have some, but we already have some. And
right.
it is really interesting because after she did that, and mine was done, oh gosh, at least 4 years ago, it is still intact.
Yes.
I still, because I have boundaries on how much stuff I can keep within each category, it
It
helps me
makes
immensely.
It does. And we do the same thing in your closet. And so when we set up your closet, we do like with like. And that's why we color code, because when we color code, you have, already have 5 white shirts. You have, for me, 10 black shirts. So when I'm shopping in my closet, I'm shopping it like I'm at the store. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I want to wear a white blouse today. Here's my white. And it we just do the color of the rainbow all the way to
Yeah.
black. And then also when I'm out shopping at the store and something shiny catches my eye, I'm like, nope, I already know what my closet looks like. I do not have room for another black shirt. Now I do have
Right.
a tip for those things to help you keep it organized. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's good. Yeah. Because again, when you're shopping, you might be like, well, no, my closet, I have a sea of black shirts. I don't need another one,
Mm-mm, mm-hmm,
Or my
mm-hmm.
organizer taught me, if you are going to buy something new, know that you've got to purge something that you already
Yes.
have. So
We
maybe
call
one
that
of those black shirts is kind of old and ratty and you don't wear it as much. Fine, purge that and replace it with the new one. But we can't just keep accumulating until we have 50 black shirts.
Right. We call
Right.
that the one in, one out rule. So when you bring something into your home, and like you said earlier, even if your home is larger than the home that you previously lived in, just because that you have more space doesn't mean you need to fill it up. And I love to use closets as an example, because think about your closet as your own personal boutique. And when you go in there, you want to shop your closet, and you have your handbags on display. You have your pretty shoes on display. That way you're seeing everything, you're using everything. And then, like, if you see another shirt that you like that's black, then when you get home, you take one black shirt out that you don't like and replace it. So the one in, one out rule really helps our clients and me and you stay organized, because we're constantly editing out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important. And it does overall help your brain. Like, my kitchen has so many systems now. And like you said, when the kitchen gets messy, and it can, because you're cooking and it's
Yes.
the hub of the home, whatever, I can clean it up like that though. So even it can
Yes.
look like a massive mess, but I can put everything right away. So it's great. So let's shift a little bit and talk about keeping moms organized, whether they're
Mhm.
working from home, or working outside the home, or at home with the kids, whether they're commuting, all the stuff that comes in for our kids from school, paperwork, artwork, lots of sports equipment now.
Yes.
How can we let's tie in sort of keeping our ourselves together with all
Yes.
this stuff. And there's, tendencies for drop zones and how we can
Yes.
kind of, whether it's the mudroom, the front hall, the kitchen island, what do we do, you know?
So what I like to say is when we bring things into the home, we don't just come in with the backpacks and our purses and the bags. We don't just plop them down. We bring them in. We have a spot for our purse to go. I always did. I was a teacher, and when my kids got home, we immediately went through backpacks. And it was something similar to this, and it's a
Yeah.
beautiful file box. I had a label file for each kiddo, one for me. And so everything that I wanted to keep for the kiddos went straight into their file. They knew where it went as well.
Yeah.
If it was a paper that had to be signed, we dealt with it right then and there. And so
Okay.
when you have a system and you have a spot for everything to live, that helps because you're not just accumulating that pile of papers that always ends up on the island or the kitchen table.
Yeah.
You're dealing with it daily. And so the same with mail. When you bring your mail in, I go straight to my recycle bin. Same with kids' things. I recycle the things that I don't need. I put all the bills in one spot so they get paid, all the kids' things in one spot. And so I always say, and we've been doing this a lot with moms, because in Texas, we've already started back to school. And so
Sure.
we set them up for success where this is where the kids put the backpacks. This is where the coats and shoes go. When we do groceries, we have a system to help them as well. And so whatever door you come in, like for us, we come in through the garage.
Yeah.
We have hooks and we have benches and we have shoe hooks right outside the door because I don't like to wear shoes in the house. So
Yeah.
I will go through the house with our clients and create systems that make it easy. And as a teacher, I'm all about teaching the kiddos, even on my little grandkids that are little.
Yeah.
They love to help at that age. And so I always say, teach them young, give them, like my parents did, give them responsibility to take care of their own things. Even as young as 2, they can put their toys in a basket. So
Yes.
when you set them up for success and everything has a place to live,
Yes.
then and everybody in the house knows it's not just mom that has to take care of this. Dad has a spot for his things. Moms have a spot, and the kiddos do too. And you set them up for success that way. It really does take the stress off of the moms to have to do everything in the home.
Yeah, and it keeps things organized. And I think a lot of what you just talked about too, I just want to mention, part of it is the system's going to help, but it is creating some habits. Like you said, like as soon as your kids got home with the backpacks, you immediately went to them, and that's a habit that I think that you have to form. But I think once you have the system there, it creates it. I feel like it makes the habit easier to.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So when you come in with the kids and their lunchbox goes into the sink because you need to wash it out, the backpack gets hung up, all the papers are in there, the homework pile, whatever, if they have homework, we would try to do that before dinner. And then as you're cooking dinner, when I was a teacher, we would clean everything up. I would pack the lunches the night before. They went straight into the refrigerator. All the papers were signed, the little folders, if you have little kids in little preschool or elementary school, you have to sign their little mom and me folder. All of that gets set up the night before so that when you wake up in the morning, you're not rushing to make the lunch. You're not rushing to have breakfast ready. You're not rushing to find the backpack. You're not rushing to find the shoes and socks. Everything is set up the night before. And it really, like you said, when you create that habit, it literally takes minutes. And then every morning is a fresh start to the day, because we don't want to go to work frazzled. We don't want to send our kids to school frazzled. We want to set them up for success while they're at school and while we're at work.
Yeah. And just as an aside, do you find any benefit to a bulletin board in a mudroom or near the kitchen for like those, sometimes you have those papers you don't want to forget. And I mean,
so I prefer a file because bulletin boards can get visually cluttered. And I personally don't like visual clutter because that makes my brain feel a mess.
Yeah.
So to me, I would rather have one hanging file folder per person in a pretty file that is beautiful to look at. And I can have this file box sitting out on my counter. And I do this for moms all the time. I create a drop zone for them.
Yeah,
So
I have one of those.
Yeah. And so preferably that is where I want it, because if you think about a bulletin board, things get constantly put on top of other things, and pretty soon
That's
it's
true.
it's a mess. And so for me, if you're going to have a bulletin board, that's where I would prefer artwork to go, because
Okay.
then the kids can hang their artwork, especially the little kids, hang their artwork. They can change it out themselves. So I'm not a huge fan of bulletin boards for things that need to get done.
Okay. Just wanted to ask that. I think organizing can feel daunting, in that we all are like, oh, we get this project. We're like, we're going to tackle this. Right. And then I actually saw a meme about this the other day. The woman was like, I think she was like emptying out all her bathroom cabinets, and she's sitting on the floor. Everything's around her. She's like,
Yeah.
okay, I started. And then it was like, she lost full momentum
Yes.
and was just sitting there like, I don't even want to do it. I just want to abandon it. And it can be
Yeah.
easy. We know. Right. So
Yes.
what are your tips for that as far
Well,
as?
so for that, that's usually when our clients will say, this is when I called you, because I just cannot finish it myself. And so I have two tips for that. Ask a friend for help. Like, you can do a friend share, like, today, let's tackle a project in your home. Next week, let's tackle a project in your home, because it's more fun to do it with someone.
Yeah.
I always say it's more fun to put on good music. And for those of you that do not have the, wherewithal to pull out and do a huge project, because people don't realize how much work it is. I'll come in with a team and we'll get it all done in one day.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it by yourself, I say set the timer for 30 minutes. You're going to do one spot at a time, whether it's just your pantry, just your cooking utensils, just the paper in your home, just the toys. So you break it down into categories.
Small,
and then
right?
It's more manageable. And so those are my tips. Do it with a friend or call an organizer to help you. Put on fun music and set the timer for 30 minutes. It's amazing what you'll get done. And then it won't be so frustrating. You won't frustrate yourself, because you're like, in 30 minutes, look what I did. And then you're like, okay, now I can go do whatever I need to do the rest of the day. So that really motivates. And in the class I teach, we talk about that. And the ladies were like, when you said set the timer, I'm like, what am I going to get done in 30 minutes or 20 minutes? It was the biggest thing for them. And they all just could not believe how much they got done and how much it motivated them to keep going.
That is, I will say, I do find all of this contagious. Like, once you do it yourself, or you have somebody like yourself come in and set up the systems, it gets very contagious. So I had someone help me with certain areas of my house, and then I ended up doing the other areas, because I was like my linen closet, I was able to do it, right? It was but it gets contagious and you want everything done. So it is, once you start, it's a good thing, and it'll get you off to the races,
It is, especially when you feel like you've finished, when you feel productive. When you pull it all out and then stop, and then you've got a huge mess to clean up, your productivity, you just feel defeated. You're like, why did I do this? I can't finish it by myself. But when you set yourself up the other way for success and say, what can I get done in 30 minutes or whatever amount of time you have?
Yes.
You'll be amazed at how much you can get done.
Yeah. And I think this goes back to really what we've said before we really covered this, but when you do things like that and it becomes habitual and you're into the maintenance thing, then you're not faced with those large projects down the road usually. I mean, here and there things come up. Like, I know when both my kids moved to college, that was time to really go through and purge the room from high school and middle school stuff, or mostly high school stuff, and really purge and get stuff out. And then when they make the next step from, graduating college, et cetera. So there's different phases I find in kids' lives that you have to, I remember when they used to go away to summer camp, I was like, yes. And I would go in and just purge that room. I loved it. And those were like middle school and early high school days. So that was great. But, so I think that this all kind of ties back together, like with the whole conversation, is just that, doing this then makes it so you can maintain it, and then it makes it habitual, and then that results in not having these big projects where you sort of peter out from.
Right. Or with kiddos, you're like, okay, it's time to clean your room. Well, you say, go clean your room. What does that mean? What does that mean? That you tell them that, but you got to teach them how to do it. So when you, like I said, when you teach them younger, it's going to become a habit. And so for me with my kids, because I'm me, we did their major purge of the rooms twice a year. So it didn't have time to build up. It didn't have time, to accumulate. We went through the clothes at the beginning of the school year, and then we went through the clothes at the end of the school year
Yeah,
because they
that's
had
smart.
grown.
Yep.
And then we were able to donate, give them to other kiddos that could use them. And then it just gave them the freedom to like, okay, when I say go clean your room, this is exactly how you do it. And it made it easier for them. So I like to set kids up for success as well as clients.
Yeah, and I just find having, raising 2 kids, and you came from a much bigger family, but,
Mhm.
they have a lot of stuff these days, and that can
Mhm.
really take over a house if you're not careful, and when they're really little with all the toys and arts and crafts
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
equipment, if they're infant, it can really keep going, so it's really important to kinda sift through and maybe, like you said, give yourself, like, a twice a year, like, "Let's go through
Yeah,
this," because otherwise it just builds and builds and builds, and,
it
birthdays and
does.
holidays come and they get given presents and given things, and it can really,
Mhm.
I believe, spin really far out of control unless, like you said, there's some boundaries.
100% there needs to be boundaries. And so Christmas time is a great time or before a birthday. Let's go through your toys because you're probably gonna get some for gifts, and let's give them to kiddos that don't have toys. And that really
Right.
motivates kids because they're like, what? Kids don't have toys. And so it's also a teaching lesson for them in that area as well.
Yeah, we did that too, and especially before the holidays, it's important too, the
Yeah,
toy
I agree.
donation.
It
Yep.
is. Yeah.
So you mentioned this briefly, you have a course and you also have an amazing product line on HSN. Which I
Yes,
love this. I'm just gonna say, because I'm a big cheerleader for women who come in with a second or third act in their life in a career. I've done it. I love women that do it. You've done it. And icing on the cake is you got a product line at HSN. So
I know.
let's talk about your course in HSN and let everybody know about these great things that you do.
Okay. Well, it was really fun. Somebody at QVC and HSN are sister companies, and somebody from there follows me on social media. And I think because of my age and my confidence level, they were like, this lady, we need to talk to her about putting together and some organizing products and coming on air and selling them. And so that has been such a fun gift that has come from this side hustle. As when I started in 2017, let's just see what happens. So that's
Yeah.
been a really fun thing that has happened from there. And then after, let's see, last year I started a course, and it's called the Get Neat with Lisa Organized Life Membership.
Yeah.
You can go to my website and look at it, but it's a 9-month course. It runs September through May, just the same as a school year. And we meet on Zoom twice a month, and we go through the curriculum and we tackle all the things, not just organizing spaces. We talk about time management and managing our expectations for ourselves and for the other people that live in our home.
Yeah.
We just talk about it all, and it really is a really an amazing time with other women in all stages of life. It's not just moms with little kids. It's empty nesters, and
Yep.
now they're dealing with their parents getting older and having
Yep.
to deal with taking care of the things in their parents' home, and if someone in the family passes away and you're left to deal with all that, there's grief involved. And so it kind of melds all of my, like you said, my acts. I was a marketing executive, then a teacher, and now an organizer. And so I feel like with with age comes wisdom,
Yep.
and I'm able to really relate and help a lot of people, and I have a heart to help. And so I started that course last year, and it's just opened up again for this year. But all of those things were just fun things that happened in my life because I'm using my gifts that I was given. Everybody has a gift, and like I
Right.
said, when you use it, it brings so much joy.
It does. Do you wanna tell the audience in detail about the line at HSN, like what it offers, what is sold, and how like, when they can get it? Is it always available on hsn.com, or is it only available a
Yes.
couple times a year? Let's give them the details about that.
Yeah, well, my newest line, I've had 6 different lines that have come on since 2021, and my current line is available on hsn.com. If you
Mhm.
just type in "Get Neat with Lisa" in the search bar at hsn.com, you'll find the products there. It's just been a really fun experience. So yeah, I go on. I was just on air a couple weeks ago, and I'm not sure when I'm going to go back on air because they do TV schedules are cyclical, and
Right.
so they do organizing about 4 times a year. So
Oh, great. Great. Yeah, we'll have if there's anything, this has been a great talk, and we're just skimming the surface, I know, because there's so many areas of it. And like you said, at each stage of our lives, it comes into play. You know,
Yes.
now that I'm an empty nester, it was like really getting the kids' stuff and other stuff purged and having the house function a little differently for when they come home to visit,
Yeah.
dealing with parents who are ill, downsizing, etc., and purging during grief. And I've had to deal with that. And so it really covers so many phases of life. So I think your course is really, really great. So, but even though we've just skimmed the surface, I'd love to close the show with just sort of any sort of best tip or best little piece of advice, and then let us know best websites, social
Okay.
media addresses, and then we put the links all in the show notes, Lisa, so
Oh,
everyone
that's
can just
wonderful.
click right to it. We can even put the HSN one there too.
Okay, great. So my best advice is start one drawer at a time. That
Ah,
way you don't get overwhelmed. Just take
yep,
one drawer, and
yep,
pretty soon you're going to turn around and your whole house is going to be empty. One drawer, one hall closet,
love that.
one cabinet, one spot that's, a hot spot in your home that drives you
Right,
nuts. Just start small,
one
because
shelf, yeah, whatever.
baby
Just
steps
small.
are baby steps are still forward progression, and so they're little wins that are going to add up, and it's going to make you feel accomplished, and it's going to keep you motivated to keep going. So one drawer at a time, that's what I say. And then you can find me, I do all the tips and tricks on my social media over on Instagram at Get
Mhm.
Neat with Lisa, Instagram,
Okay,
Facebook, and then my website is getneatwithlisa.co. And
good.
so that's where you can find all the other things that I offer there, and hsn.com. Get Neat with Lisa.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. You're so good at what you do.
Oh, thank
And
you, Jill.
anyone who's in the Texas area, that is the area that you serve, correct? For
Yeah, but
your
we'll fly
in-person?
anywhere. We'll fly
Okay.
anywhere. Yes, but yeah,
So
we service the Dallas Fort Worth area all the time. We're there, but we literally can fly anywhere that someone wants us to come.
I love it. Or people could sign up for your course,
Yes, I would love that. Yeah.
right? Well, this
Yes.
has been a great chat. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come. It's an important topic for people. And I really do think it makes a huge difference in our busy lifestyles to have these systems in place. And it makes just everything a lot easier. And it actually lowers stress levels too.
It's proven fact. That is a proven fact that decluttering de-stresses.
See? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why I told you, like, downsizing my parents, it was already a stressful situation. And then, like, all this stuff to go through, it was so I felt like this is burdensome. Things are burdensome. And it made me like come home and I'm already in the process of like constantly weeding since my kids. But now I'm like, now I'm really serious about like, okay, I don't want this to be a burden to anybody. Like, obviously, the stuff that's nice and sentimental, whatever, we'll keep. But like, there's a lot of stuff we all have that we don't need. And it's like, I'm going to try to really pare this down because it's just a burden. It's a
It
burden
is
when you move. It's a burden. Like, it's just a burden.
it is. It is. So let's let it go.
Exactly. Well, anyway, thanks so much for your time. And I look forward to connecting with you soon.
Thank you, Jill. Have a good day.
You two have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.